If I want to write a book about the Rubber Barons and be published, I would have to excoriate, attack these people with spite and anger. These Rubber Barons are horrible people. But if I try and present a story that's more balanced and what I believe is more accurate and more positive, no one will publish me. No one. No chance. And if I write a really nasty book, let's say, that's totally way out, without any reality, cherry-picking small incidents and turn, like John Gruden emails, and turn into a big story about something, how horrible these people are, then not only will it be published, the New York Times will rave, oh, it's one of the best books I ever read, amazing story.
Yeah, you definitely have to stick to their narrative if you want to be published.
Yeah, of course, and make some money. And otherwise...
You have to self-publish.
No, Jordan Peterson saw the problem with that. They come at him full force. So in the early 60s, the history books changed dramatically. I mean, they were like mirrors now. Before, like, I'll give you an example of... I can give you tons of examples, but... Thomas Jefferson's one of the obvious examples, or Andrew Jackson. These are really virtuous, great men. Wonderful justice. They really believed in justice and helping the small person. Both of those men. But now all we know is they were horrible slave owners. Well, it's true, they were slave owners. But they'll just cherry pick this one incident, or the Trail of Tears about Andrew Jackson. Well, he wasn't even president when the Trail of Tears with the Cherokees happened. He was at home on his sickbed. He was out of the office for 3 years. It wasn't his job. He's not responsible for it. But they lie, and they say, oh, he did it. He's responsible for this incident. It was a military debacle. It was not a planned abuse or oppression. Andrew Jackson was trying to help the Indians. He was migrating them west of the Mississippi, where no white people lived at that time. And he was saying, you guys over there will stay here because we cannot coexist. We're conflicting. Why can't we not conflict? I've told before on my episode, so I don't want to go through it. But the point is that Andrew Jackson is nowhere near this horrible person that they're presented. But if I try and tell that, not only balanced but fair story in a book, I'll never get published. So if I tell the opposite, oh man, best book ever. Like Thomas Jefferson is... I saw one history book, I wouldn't even call it, written by somebody, Diamond, Goldstein, somebody like this. He said that he wrote a book about Andrew Jackson, or one letter. Andrew Jackson, or Thomas Jefferson wrote books, like 10 volumes of books. He had so much material. So the fellow cherry picks the whole section and finds one little notation that Thomas Jefferson wrote in the side margin of his accounts at the time, like his balance sheet of his private, that he said, oh, wow, the value of his slaves are really going up. And that's all he wrote. Well, he was profiting off slaves, he was a big trader all of a sudden, and speculator in human flesh. And the book wrote this, that's how the book, narrative of the book, that was the thesis. And the New York Times was raving about this book, how amazing. It gives you this new perspective on Thomas Jefferson. They're just tearing down idols, virtuous people, and traditional customs for the country, just tearing them down. And who they replace them with? Who do they replace? Movie stars? Athletes? I don't know. But but there's a coordinated attack on the country's not only virtue, but on its customs and traditions and values, like the Thanksgiving story. A lot of people now believe Thanksgiving was mostly about thanksgiving to God. The Pilgrims thank God for wiping out the Indians with disease. Oh, this is great. There's no Indians here. And that's not at all true at all. It's not only not true, I don't even know where the original source is. And I've read enough. So if there is this original statement by one pilgrim, he was definitely on the side and not a key player in the pilgrimage. But now, they teach it, and they quote their own books, quote their own books, and they footnote the original lie.
Well, they changed the narrative,
Yeah, and destroy virtue and destroy goodness and virtue and justice and all virtues and tear them down. Tear these people apart.
Because there probably is some...
Get you to hate your own country.
Get you to hate yourself.
And you despise the country, and you think it's all based on oppression, and then I want to go out there and fight to fix these wrongs. And I think I'm doing a great job, but I'm fighting my own head because I've been programmed to believe a lie. If it was true, the stories, then yeah, maybe you have an argument, and maybe it is time to address these wrongs, these crimes of America. But they're not true. They're only in your own head.